So just to back up, I manage our Tyonek grown programs with Tyonek Tribal Conservation District. So Tyonek grown, and I'm added and gather here, and I'll explain what that is. But our program has grown since it was originally designed and since it was named Tyonek grown. So it's now kind of a suite of programs around food and agriculture that involve our community farm and garden. So there's a 1 acre production farm to feed the community, as well as some gardening space and a garden club and community garden beds. So it kind of has multiple functions, and we're working on putting up an educational yurt at that site right now. It's currently the only covered space are our high tunnels. So having some more infrastructure will really help our youth education. We also have historically had a farmers market since the inception of this program, and over the past year have been developing a food hub. As some of you who might know, if you've heard me talk about our program before, Tyonek is a community that is off the road system, but very close proximally to Anchorage. And so our staff members, for the most part, live in Anchorage. And we have a couple of local residents in Tyonek who are staff members, but the bulk of our staff live and work in Anchorage and travel over on day or overnight trips. And so that kind of leaves us in this unique position where we're in Anchorage, very close to where a lot of the local foods are aggregated and distributed. And it's just a 20-minute flight over to Tyonek. So we've started a food hub model that will allow us to get more Alaska grown foods out to the community, and they can order those through an online storefront. I'll skip hydroponics for now because that's what we're going to talk about. Newly funded is a food forest project that we are excited to kind of expand the community garden space. We have a 1/4 acre cleared next to the farm that has some native plants that have been integrated, but over the next 3 years, we will be designing and implementing a whole new community harvest space that will have native plants, some fruit trees, and pathways, and best practice for harvesting, signage, and all kinds of things like that. We also do a lot of youth education, outreach with the school curriculum, and we employ as many youth as we can in the summer season, usually at the garden, but we have had some other conservation roles available to youth in the past. So last year we hired 6 youth to help us run the farm. And that has been a big staple of our program since about 2017. And lastly, research and technical assistance. We do on-farm research. We're beginning a food system assessment project right now, as well as some climate resilience planning, and we do technical assistance with other TCDs and with tribal members in the community. So that's the bulk of the program, and we're going to dive into what our hydroponic systems look like. So the initial hydroponic system was introduced in around 2017. This is what it looks like. For those familiar, it's an NFT, nutrient film technique system. It houses somewhere around, I think, 172 plant spaces, something like that. It's just kind of basic trays. You can see Cameron from VH Hydroponics in here. He built the support system. This was like back in the day before a lot of the products that they have designed now. So this is what it looked like from the beginning. We had a Blue Lab dosatronic system, and I'll get into a little bit later some of the challenges that we've had with hydroponics over the years. As everyone who does hydroponics knows, leaks spring up and things break. So our dosatronic system right now is not working, and that product has been discontinued. So the parts that we need, even just probes and stuff, are unavailable. So we're navigating what to do next with that. So ongoing projects with hydroponics, we have had the nutrient film technique going since its inception, aside from the 2020 school year. We have done ongoing curriculum with the Tabona School. They frequently feed all of the produce into their school lunches, snacks, and harvest parties. And we have on and off used the hydroponic systems to start seeds for the outdoor farm. So in 2022, I think it was the 21 to 22 school year, we introduced 3 new towers, which are these vertical harvest towers. These were donated to the school, and I left this middle picture here just to show, how unruly these get. These are tomato plants left in the school. And so these are really fantastic systems. And this year we have put microtoms into that system and hoping to avoid all of the management of the tomato vines. Because I live in Anchorage and there's so much more weather disruption in the winter months, getting out to Tyonek on a regular basis just isn't possible. And the school has 2 teachers right now. So we try not to make too many asks of the local school capacity as often as possible. And I didn't include a picture of this, but in our office last year, we had the same tower in our Anchorage office, and I ended up building kind of a PVC cage that we were trellising the tomato plants up onto, which worked great, but it's still not the perfect system, still pretty wild. So the past couple of years, here's just a highlight of what we've done. We've relaunched the NFT system after it had gone down during COVID and was unutilized for a couple of years. We increased production and consumption last year, primarily because of getting the NFT system back up online and doing a little bit more management successions with those towers. Last year, 2 of the towers were used in the cafeteria to feed directly into school meals, and the other tower was used by Mr. Bill's science class for some experiments around nutrient management and water and light needs for plants. So here is just a basic curriculum sheet that I created for the older kids at the school. And you can completely ignore, I just saw this like Latin on the right side. That must have been like standard template text that was replaced when I finished the sheet with the text on the left-hand side. But the idea was just to get them thinking about like what do plants need to grow, and then the lesson is designed to then extrapolate how does that look in a hydroponic system. So you can see these figures on the right side, what that depicting how you would get light and nutrients and water into a hydroponic system. And then the older students worked with the younger students after every year they like clean out these systems, prep them for growing and go through that curriculum, and then they work with the younger kids to decide which plants should go in the top, middle, or bottom sections. And so they talk about what different plants look like as they have grown up and what amount of space they'll utilize in the system. So 2 experiments that we've done in the last 2 years since I've been on board. Last year, we trialed strawberries. On the right-hand side in the bottom, you can see this little picture. This was a bare root strawberry that I put into this pot in the tower. And that was a terrible failure. They all just rotted. This year, I purchased strawberries from a different supplier, and they came in little plugs that I planted directly in, so they weren't bare root, and those seem to do really well. You can see they produced. The downside is that this system, the one with the strawberries brought in, got terrible aphids this year. In the history of us, doing hydroponics with Tabona School, we've never seen aphids before. So even though it seems like, kind of unlikely to get aphids from that plant, I do think that's where they came from. I don't see a lot of other options. Our office is on the 5th floor of a bank office building. So it's possible it could have been brought, from me or someone else that was working around aphids, but seems unlikely to me. And then on the left, you can see our radishes, which we just harvested this past week for the school. We just planted those this past couple months and harvested those yesterday. So some of our challenges, as I mentioned, the NFT system has some leaks and water flow issues. There have been challenges with the system, at least since I've been here. You know, it was a makeshift system. On the left-hand side, there's an area circled where all of these drainage holes were having some leaks. You can see the buckets there. You might be able to see the leak coming out of that middle pipe. So, you know, leaks can be solved, but the other main issue we're having here is you can see on the picture in the right side, at the end of these beds, there are a bunch of, you know, lush green plants, but something is happening with our slope where all of the water is rushing down too quickly, I think. And that top section of plugs are just not getting saturated at all. So those all have seeds in them and they're just not getting the water in order to grow. So this picture is from last year, and this was about how much production we got. We never really solved it better than this. And this past year, I planted everything about 5 weeks ago and just went out yesterday to check, and we're having the same thing, and even the whole top rows are actually not even growing at all. So probably because last year I was just tweaking and paying more close attention to things, but this is probably the biggest issue that we need to resolve, is just figuring out what to do with these trays and how to get them to produce more. So efficiency, time and support is just a challenge for our program. Tyonek is off the road system, the staff lives in Anchorage, and there's minimal capacity within the village. So that's just always something we're troubleshooting. And then this year I mentioned aphids was an issue. Goals for the future are maximizing our space efficiency, particularly in this NFT system, getting to a place where we can kind of produce successions even in all of these slots, and then potentially diversifying offerings. I'd say first we need to maximize the use of our systems, but then we will think about whether we want to incorporate Dutch bucket systems to better manage tomatoes and vine crops or peppers, or start to do other types of things. But while we're kind of catering to the best use of each of the devices we have. And improve nutrient management, something I've heard Melissa talk a lot about. I would love to incorporate that down the line. I think we have some more kind of efficiency and troubleshooting to get through before we get there, but that's something I'd love to have, you know, the opportunity to think more about. And then automating, I mentioned our dosatronic systems went down, and so we have no automation right now. So aside from me flying in and managing, sometimes I'm texting the science teacher to make sure things are getting nutrients added, but there's just a lot of human error with instructing kiddos and having low capacity at the school to keep those things up going. So any thoughts or questions? That's all I've got. I'll just close out of the screen.
I have a question.
Sure.
Because we talked about this before, was are you married to the NFT system, or would you consider trying a different one? That's my question, because I think it might be that system, because we did that when we were working with the Effie Cochran school, and they were on an NFT system, and it was just giving them trouble after trouble after trouble, and we switched them to a deep water culture system. And it's so much easier for the kids and everybody to manage. I'm just asking the question because, like, can I show you a picture of the deep water culture system we're working on putting in schools?
Please.
So this is one we put in Delta. So it's fairly simple. And you have a shelf for starting your seeds down here. And then you have 2 sleds. Basically, we bought them at Walmart, and it's a recirculating system, and it is probably $1,500 for buying all the parts to this. And you could easily set something up. I mean, you could still keep that other system, but if it's giving you so much trouble, I
hear you, and it's something I've been thinking a lot about, is, you know, why are we constantly fighting with this system that was kind of just thrown together, you know, with what was available, cheap scraps. And something like this, I'm not really familiar with these systems, but I could see how our existing frame, you know, could have some shelving built out. We could put some wire racks onto that frame,
Yeah.
and do something similar to this. So,
So
um,
let me show
definitely.
you the I'll get to back to that.
Those are some nice
But
trays though, so don't get rid of those. At least repurpose them
yeah,
or something.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, the
So
white trays
here,
next.
here's
Redesign them.
another picture. This is a picture
Yeah.
of it with plants all in it. Can you see that? I mean,
Uh,
it just really, it can go crazy with
Okay.
it. But my coworker has been working with a couple of folks on this particular system because it's good for places where you have electrical issues and your plants will be fine. They're just sitting in the water and they're never going to be dried out. They,
So it's
you know,
the water must be like oxygenated.
yeah,
Okay.
there's air stones in there and then
Yeah.
it circulates also. So you get a lot of water added. Anyway, just a thought. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to sell it or anything but I'm just thinking about you were talking about maximizing your space and something like this is going to be less of a headache because you don't deal with dosers per
Yeah.
se because it's already in the water and you just need to add it every now and again when you're adding water. It
Mhm.
does it can get issues with salt if you're using the commercial um fertilizer sometimes, but
Mhm.
if you go to the ones we were talking about, it's a lot less issues when it comes to that. But anyway, just thought I'm so impressed with all that you've been doing and
Mhm.
we are we're just trying to figure out what's the best thing. So anyway, and if
Yeah.
anybody else has questions, I'm gonna step back. And
Well,
that was my
just to say that I really do appreciate that, Melissa, and our biggest barrier to transitioning is that we're 100% grant funded, so we'll just need to we need to make that decision that that's our leap and then go find the funding to do that. But we're strongly considering it, and so I appreciate you sharing that deep water system.
Cayley, have you looked at the state agriculture grant to replace that drip system?
The micro grants.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we did apply for micro grant. I'm curious if anyone else has heard about theirs because we received we got some questions back, which might be a good sign, but we have not heard any status updates. And so and there was some funding in there for hydroponic upgrades and to possibly bring out some technical assistance. So that could be Melissa or if anyone has recommendations. If we get that funding, maybe I'll bring that information to this group and see if anyone has support or feedback for us. Because that might be an opportunity just to bring someone out and have them help us design a new system. Yeah.
that does sound promising that they asked you questions.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It was a while ago.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. We haven't heard back either. So
Okay.
I keep
Yeah.
following up and they keep saying they're still reviewing them, but they're still promoting the second round too. I'm like,
Right. The
Right,
second round
right.
is coming up due in a couple weeks here.
I
the end
think
of the month.
that they have to go, once they decide who they want to fund, then it still has to go through the USDA and then the USDA comes back with questions and then they still have to do a final approval. So I'm sure it's not, I mean, local capacity is certainly sometimes an issue with these things, but I think there's a federal element that they're waiting on.
It does sound like that if they're asking the questions, because that's happened with our
Mhm.
specialty crop block grant, but they had to ask questions and then they finally said, okay, and you got it. It was-
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's a really good sign.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mel, just
Yeah.
something you might look into. When I was doing an aquaponic, well, a girlfriend and I were doing aquaponics at the time. She used sleds to build out an aquaponic system and it killed her fish. So you
Mhm.
might look at grade 2 plastic. Make sure they're food grade plastic.
Yeah, I will. Yep. But we've been using them now and now well over a year and they're still doing everything is
Well, they
good. The
might not
plants
kill
look
the
good.
plants, but the toxins that would leach into the water are still there.
Okay, I'll talk with Scott about that.
Melissa, do you mind sharing those pictures or maybe to the whole group, even if other people are interested in?
Sure. Yeah, I will be happy to send it out afterwards so folks can see that.
Mm.
That would be great.
Well, I'm curious if anyone else has ever dealt with aphids in a hydroponic system and what you did or where you think it came from.
Hi, this is Duke Delgado, Spruce Island Farms. I did have aphids. Well, I brought some strawberries in from outside, and I didn't know it had aphids on it, and they killed all my squash. And only way I got rid of them, well, I tried sprays, you know, but didn't really work. So I ordered 1,000 ladybugs and let them loose in my building. And after about a month and a half, 2 months, they were all gone. So ladybugs work great.
What sprays did you use? I'm just curious.
Just the soapy water, you know, stuff like that. Nothing toxic
Mm.
because we eat the food, you know. There was God, I can't remember the names of them now.
Well, there's Safer, which is like a soap.
Was it an
one.
Yeah,
little soap?
Yeah.
yeah. They
Neem
sell
oil.
it. They sell them at you could get it at any hardware store or whatever in the plant section.
Yeah.
So I have a
But-
colleague that tried using, she got a bunch of aphids on a couple arrow gardens she was testing out to see if they would be a good option to send out. And that was like with eggplant and basil, and those were all with like arrow garden, like preset things. So I don't know how she got the aphids, but I told her to start with water and then try neem oil if the water wasn't working, and the neem oil killed all of her plants, and it's not supposed to be toxic. So I thought that was odd.
It's not supposed to do that.
Yeah, it
Oh,
wasn't. I
yeah.
tried the neem oil too, and it didn't work on the aphids. So I just got the ladybugs.
Yeah, we've been using another soap product called it's an interesting name called Nukem. And it has worked for us. Yeah, Nukem was a product that we researched it. It's basically a soap-based one, and it's safe to eat afterwards. It usually is gone within, but it has worked. Although for me, mostly when I've had them, I've had to basically take all the plants out and hit it with a little bit of a solution of peroxide, and that usually helped. But when they get really bad, they get really bad, and it's you're just like, yeah, get off my plants. I totally hear you. But sometimes it takes just cleaning everything out, doing a really thorough clean, and hitting it with a little bit of a diluted peroxide solution, and that does really help with aphid eggs that are on, and clean everything around it too, because sometimes those aphid eggs are not actually on your system, they're close to it. So like if you've got light structures, wipe everything down, everything, not just the plant beds. That is my recommendation too.
It is a fun
Good.
agriculture activity or for the kids. I've ordered the larvae of the ladybugs, and then you hatch them, and then they hatch and do their molting. So you can incorporate that.
Lacewings are good too for that. They're one that you can get, and they're good aphid eaters as well.
I wonder if they just come in the winter, because that's when I've always gotten aphids on my plants. And, you know, I now sitting here thinking about it, we're on the 3rd floor in this office building, so we're not near any doors. And so we haven't had an aphid problem yet, but knock on wood. But I've always had them growing, you know, anything I grew at the house, they always indoors. They always came inside in the fall. You know, no change in plants, no change in anything. It's just, it was a seasonal thing.
Yeah, they're going for the heat, probably. Well, that's good. All right. Well, it's a little past 3. Does anybody have any more questions for Cayley, or do you have questions for us, Cayley, that we can help?
I don't think I have any questions, but maybe I'll just talk out loud for a minute, but because Max mentioned the trays, in our system. And one thing I considered, I'll just see if any expert in here has an opinion about, is I think part of the issue in this big NFT system is these trays are so long and are now several years old that they're kind of sloping a little bit. They're sagging in the middle. And I had thought about, maybe if the length of them is the issue, what if I just cut them and redesign the system to turn them sideways? We have more short trays. We'd have to, buy a bunch of other PVC connectors and create a new drain channel and stuff. But when I hadn't thought about deep water culture, but when I was thinking about redesigning the system, that was something I thought about, was maybe just doing these shorter trays. Anyway, curious if anyone has input on that.
How long are the trays? How long is the system?
That is a great question. It's probably 10 feet.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've had to add supports in ours because that was happening. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
you added any, like either with wire or some little metal?
Yeah, we've like put some metal scraps and some trim and random things under there to support it. And it hasn't solved, it either solves the water flow issue and then we have leaks coming in out other areas. Or yeah, it just has created other issues.
Yeah, my trays, they sag a lot too. I just tied string on there and set them on top of it. And, it helps, but I need to get stronger braces on there so they don't sag.
The system we had at Effie that was NFT was on those shelves that like we used with the deep water culture, and we had little supports to keep the angle correct. So there was pieces of wood underneath that. Basically, there were a couple of different layers as it was going down to keep the angle correct, and it provided support for the beams as well. That might
Okay.
be,
Interesting.
I don't know. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Food grade silicone's always good for leaks if they're in those
Yeah.
areas. It takes time. It's like they're always popping up, so it's good to have that on hand. And whenever you're cleaning the trays, just seal it up and dry it for a day.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a round robin about what everybody's working on and do a little share before we finish our meeting. How's that sound? Who would like to go first? Sure, Cayley, you've already talked about what you're doing, but if there's more stuff you want to talk about, let anybody else want to jump in?
Well,
You
I'll
are
start.
at-
This is Duke.
Okay.
Well, I'm growing cherry tomatoes. Averaging about 2 pounds a week. These cherry tomatoes, I've been growing them, well, from the same type of planting as for the last 3 years. I've been saving seeds, and as soon as they die off, I starts more. So I've been going at this variety for 3 years, and I got those out of Safeway. They had a mixed cherry tomatoes. There was like 4 different types of cherry tomatoes in there. And I just started the seeds, and this one was the one that worked the best. The roots don't go they're in Dutch buckets. And the roots don't go crawling through the drain pipes and into the tank, So they're pretty well contained. So I do like them. I'm not sure what flavor they are, but they're just little gold ones. They have some jalapenos going. I have some bell peppers going. I just started some Tabasco peppers. Going to see how those work. Yeah, and all, of course, the lettuces and all those in the NFTF or cabinets. I have 2 of those. I do a lot of basil, thyme. Bok choy is a fast growing veggie. Because I get my lettuces started, and when I put them in my cabinet, I throw seeds of bok choy in at the same time. I don't even start them, and they catch up to my lettuce by harvest time. So bok choy is a real good grower. It's fast, and yeah. And I do also have dirt buckets going. Plants with dirt, and growing coffee plants. I got started roasting some last week, some coffee beans. So yeah. So, but that's about all I have going in there right now.
So how is Alaska grown coffee? I'm just curious.
Well, you have to have a good building.
That is so awesome. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear that. I know we had one of the former Food Policy Council board members was thinking, the guy who does Chugach chocolates, he was going to do cacao in a greenhouse and have actual Alaska grown chocolate.
Oh,
You
wow.
can do coffee, I bet you can do chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the example of the thing that it's okay to import because it's impossible to do it local everywhere is like wine and coffee. That's amazing.
I love it. Well, there's grapes grown in Manly, and she was gonna experiment with wine in the greenhouse there. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the other villages, they grow watermelons in hydroponics. So yeah. And I've tried it, and I got 4 decent ones out of it. So I haven't tried the watermelon lately.
Well, that's great, Duke. And so are you selling the stuff that you're growing? in the
Yes, I
gar-
am.
in the
Well,
gar-
I'm giving it out to our village people.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so
it's,
amazing.
I noticed that a lot of them, if it's not iceberg lettuce, they don't like it. So I trick them, and I take it to senior meals and have them throw it in their meals.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I have tried growing iceberg in my system, and it doesn't head up
No, it
at
doesn't.
all.
I tried
So,
to.
I thought I'd give it. I also got these little Tom Thumb. I thought maybe that would work. These
Yeah.
little tiny heads that is supposed to. Nah, they just went out to the side.
Yeah.
But give it a try.
I have
Right.
grown beets in one before. Yeah. But don't let them fall down inside the tube, because when they grow, they clog everything up, and it's hard to get them out.
That's great. I'm glad you're willing to go into on that. So Cayley, do you want to talk about your Cayley Sugar? Would you like to talk about yours? If you're still here. Oh, that's okay. Who do you want to go? Go ahead.
Sure, yeah, I
just
will really
calling on
quick. So right now we just have 2 small cabinets, 2 NFT cabinets that we're growing lettuce and herbs in, along with a 4 bucket Dutch bucket system that we're hoping to have tomatoes in it. And that's it for right now. In the summertime, in one of our high tunnels, we run a lot of hydroponics though. But that's a seasonal thing. So we have a big NFT system along with Dutch bucket, beta bucket systems. Yeah, that's all the hydroponics we're doing.
Great. I'm taking notes. You hear me? But thanks for sharing. Brett, you want to talk about anything you guys are working on? I saw that you had a aphid outbreak there. You put a note. Is that under control?
Aphid outbreak, it's more under control now. We had to remove a lot, like, what would you say, like 60% of our greenhouse? Yeah, like 60% of our crop, we had to kind of just take it out, just kind of remove the aphids themselves along with the plants they were on. And we've been kind of seeding and just trying to get our whole system kind of back up and running. We kind of got to clean everything basically. We're just trying to recover from that. And that's like the main thing that's been happening here past like a month, 2 months. Yeah. That's about it.
Michelle and Nicker, do you have anything you want to share?
Sure. Let's see. I did a huge harvest of all of our peppers and made salsa and put it in the freezer so we can give it away to the guests that we have coming in. So that was a hit. And then I have some strawberries growing, but I grew them from seed, so maybe that will help kind of alleviate the aphid issue there, or at least try to before they find their way in the building. And then just planted a whole bunch of romaine and herbs, and then also peas and beans, but like bush varieties, just as an experiment to see how long before they'll shoot some flowers. So.
Oh, that's great.
Well,
Okay.
from my perspective, we've been working with the Alaska Native Hospital for the last year and a half since we've had these NFT cabinets. We just donated all the product. And so now that our grant is over, I'm going to be talking to Amy about, you know, buying some of the plants, some of the produce, some of the herbs. You know, what does she need from indigenous food perspective that we can experiment with in our cabinets, and so that's pretty exciting.
Cool. Max, do you have anything you want to share?
Let's see. We got a containerized hydroponics farm here in town in Kodiak, and they just had 2 of their 4 pumps fail the other day, so I was helping them swap out the pumps. The importance of having spares ready to go, checking warranties and all of that. Another issue they've been facing, they have some controls that are all like automated with temperature and the doser, and it all connects through Wi-Fi, but it keeps every time the Wi-Fi goes off, the whole system gets kicked off in the light timers. So definitely be careful of how much you automate your systems, and stuff like the dosers and the light timers are great, but if we could do away with the Wi-Fi connectivity, I know the farm manager here would be happier, and that was something that was swapped out later down the road, but something to keep in mind with future systems. And one exciting thing too, maybe open up this training too to others, I imagine around Alaska, but we're starting to help out the Chugach region, expanding, networking the Lutic grown farmers and the Chugach farmers, because they have a bunch of hydroponics equipment in their communities, but they don't know how to use it. So training them and getting them online. I think we're working with Seward, Port Graham, and Nanwalek to begin. So we'll be doing a training this winter, and can hopefully open that up so if people want to sit in on a beginning hydroponic training, get some new people trained up on the teams.
Will you make it a Zoom that people can jump in? and
Yeah, it's all
do
gonna be
that way?
virtual. So I just got to
Oh,
double
that's
check.
great.
I don't see why we couldn't open it up to the greater region.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like that whole idea. And we've been talking about doing that up here, that for the teachers that are involved in our school project, and try to make that open for people to jump in on. My coworker's working on some videos to go with it as well. So we'll put those up and make them available that anybody can access those. Both the building and maintaining and management, how to build the biological system, all of that, we're gonna do videos for, so. Maybe we could,
Yeah.
all of these, we could just have them up on
A
the,
whole
AFPC
roster
page,
of
anything that
volunteers.
anybody wants to share, I think would be great. Cause it's
Yeah.
what people are looking for, so.
And a note on funding too, I know this is funded by ANA Administration for Native Americans, and they funded a previous 3-year program for us to get all of our equipment, so they seem to enjoy funding hydroponic projects in rural Alaska, so throwing that out there if there's ever people looking for funding.
There's
What
always a
was
need
that
for-
name?
ANA Administration for Native Americans.
I was just talking to a tribal administrator today that was so frustrated where she was like, we keep applying to these big grants and the answer is always no, so it's hard to keep motivated to keep applying. We were talking about the micro grants and it doesn't sound like the micro grants are very invigorating either, so.
It's really hard with the micro grants because they get so many. I don't know if any of you have done reviews for the micro grants, but there's a huge amount that come through, and because I got one, I was reviewing one them, and it was amazing how many they had. And you have a very short time frame to like rate them all, and every time I read one, I'd be like, I want to fund this. I want to fund this. I wasn't, it was hard. It was really hard. Because it would be nice if we had some funding for all of that. When they had the Farm Bureau meeting this past weekend, and there was a lot, Cayley, you were there, there's a lot of discussion about just getting more funding for some of these projects, because it would be nice for us to put more money behind it.
Especially
As a
small
state.
projects, because so much of our big federal programs that are asking you to have $100,000, $1 million, that's just not always relevant for a lot of our smaller communities who just want to start small with the capacity they have.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I can give a quick update on our school program that we have with our Murkowski funds. I actually went to one of our elementary schools this morning, and they were so excited about the idea of getting hydroponics in there and the kids having it as part of their lunch program, because it's so wonderful for the kids to not just be around plants, but also make it part of all their learning beyond just biology and science. They're learning. The after school coordinator runs a what did she call it? A business class, and the kids are going to learn about setting up all the parts of selling what they're going to grow in their farm to make money back, to get more supplies, to keep running the system. She was so excited about that, and as a part of this for her one after school program. But we have one of our elementary schools who, to keep from being on the chopping block, is moving to a homesteading program. Like they want to, it's 2 rivers, so it's on the way out to Chena Hot Springs, if you've ever been up to Fairbanks and you know all what that is about. But so they're not off the road system, but those kids up there want to kind of teach them homesteading skills and change over to a charter school system so that they don't lose their school. And they're going to install a large one of those shelf hydroponic systems, actually 2 of them, and have the kids do supply the store out there, as well as all the families that are attending the school. So they're really excited about that. And we even had Lisa Murkowski asked to get one of them, a tower in her office. So we're gonna, as part of this project, make sure she gets one, and hopefully she'll keep funding and seeing about putting funding in other places around the state, because it can't hurt to ask, is what is the good lesson out of this, because we asked, and she didn't give us exactly what we asked for, but we certainly got enough to do some really good projects in these schools. So we have 5 different schools we're putting in a number of different systems, and then the nutrition department itself wants a system so they can have it on hand to be able to pick and put into the school lunches that they're sending out. So it's pretty exciting, and we're really happy about the progress that the red tape and getting it all set up has been a pain, but it was worth it. So
You guys were working on natural nutritions, weren't you?
mhm.
And
And-
how is that going?
Well, we put up on the Fairbanks Soil and Water webpage, we have one of our tabs, it says resources, and if you drop down to the hydroponics resources, there's a whole file you can download on how to set up one of those systems. We have it up there ready to go. I can get the link if you wanna. Hold on one second. I'll drop the link in the chat here. Let's see if I can grab it. And you can go straight to it. But we, as part of this project with the schools, each one of them is gonna get a biologic fertilizer system. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah. Let me see.
Because I know that the commercial stuff that we use, it just builds up with the salt, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to clean out my, drip lines and all that.
Okay, there you go. That's the one file, and then I'll put the whole page with the hydroponics, all that stuff we have there. So there's a few things. It's my goal, and I've been working on this to get the shelf system, deep water culture system out there with instructions. We just haven't finished that yet. One cool thing we've been playing around with is sort of minimizing the tower into some smaller looking at smaller towers. Let's see if I can find that picture of it. We developed one of those bucket tower systems with using 1-gallon buckets and 2-gallon buckets. So it's a mini version of it. And it's really nice for just a table. I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry. I'm sure we got it. Oh, that's where it is. Okay. I'm trying to pop it up. Well, I'll send it out later. I can't find it. I don't want to make you guys. We're already 2 minutes down. So, anyway, anybody else would like to share anything, Marissa, or anybody else?
Oh, I was just going to say thanks for making all your curriculum available, because I'm still in the phase of figuring out what growing projects people have going on in my region. And I just connected with a teacher in Sandpoint that's doing some towers. And I shared your curriculum and the biologic fertilizer. And she emailed me back today with awesome in all caps
Oh,
and was really
thank
excited.
you.
So just a positive there.
Well, our goal with all of that, we had a large group of teachers and people doing it in their classroom. So making it easier for people to have that there's a lot out there. So ours is just a good start. But thanks for the feedback. We're always willing to change stuff. If something doesn't make sense, let us know, because we want it to be as usable a resource as possible. And prevent everybody who's starting doing it going, well, I guess I have to create curriculum. No, you don't have to start from scratch. That was our whole goal behind doing that. Is it perfect? No. But is it a good start? Yes. That's what our goal was on that. So thanks for that. All right. So we'll see you all next month at our meeting. It's third Wednesday, and I'll send out meeting notes and everything if you guys want to. Hopefully, we'll get our our farmer from the hydroponic farm in Anchorage to give his presentation, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do in January. But I appreciate y'all being here, and I hope y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thanks for all your great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mel.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thanks,
You
everyone.
evening.
too.
Cayley. Appreciate it.